Welcome to WTF Stories and Advice. I'm Caroline Cranshaw.
And I'm Daryl Gove.
And we're back again. Now, we've had a little bit of a sabbatical, and shit's been going down, basically, hasn't it, Daryl?
It has been completely weird here.
We've had a terrible cyclone. And still to this, I don't know if you guys are hearing about this overseas, if you are overseas. We still have over 300 people missing. And a lot of places are completely cut off and have no roads going in and out. And it's really bad. And I don't know if they're covering it in the international media.
I know they are in the UK because I had friends reach out and they're like, Daryl, I've seen the news. Are you okay? Like coming from the UK. I think they had better coverage of it than we do here, to be fair. Because they're like, are you okay? I saw the news and how bad it is. And but I don't know about USA or so on. I mean, compared to the storms you guys get there.
What gets me about the news, I'm almost thinking we should start doing a news show, honestly.
Please, can we? Please.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Honestly, I would love to because I am slightly obsessed with, maybe not news, but, well, stories, and also stories that don't seem to make it into the mainstream media. And what I'm like hearing about Ohio, East Palestine, and this terrible ecological event that's happened. And all people know about is the freaking UFOs. Like, they've heard about that, but they're not hearing that, like, the whole town has been obliterated with toxic waste.
Well, maybe we need to do a segment that we do like in between where we have some news. What the fuck news?
Yeah.
It comes as that, like, from time to time, just to change it up.
Okay. All right. So if you would like to hear news, let us know. Send us a little message on social media or an email or whatever. But that's what we're thinking. We might go in a different direction and still obviously give advice and tell our crazy fucking stories. But I don't know. The world's gotten so nuts. I just can't quite believe it. What I find crazy is like all the people who never believed in UFOs before are going, oh my God, there's UFOs. They're here. And I'm like, nah, that's just a distraction from other news. And they're like, but you totally believe in UFOs. And I'm like, yeah, but if the government is telling you about it, it's probably not true. I don't know.
Yep.
Anyways.
Because, I believe there's probably life out there. And
oh, yeah.
Who knows if they would even be alive at the same time of us, over billions of years, billions of miles. For them to be alive and get here is still quite small chance, but probably it could happen. But what they wouldn't be doing is coming in little balloons. I can be quite sure of that.
It's only been one balloon. I know. But we need to do a whole nother show about this topic because I've been slightly obsessed with this one as well.
Okay, so we'll come back to that.
Okay,
we have a reader's letter, don't we?
We do. And this is quite an urgent one for advice. So I thought that this was a good way to get back into the year and giving you guys more content. And so if you have a problem you're struggling with us, send us your story or your questions as well. And we would love to try to help you out. And I think that we all have struggled with very similar issues. And none of the things I think we talk about on here are things that no one's ever heard of or haven't struggled with at some point or know someone who has. So, right, it's all kind of universal and it helps other people feel less alone.
And before we get into the story, a word from our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Integrative Hypnotherapy Training. You can train live in Auckland, New Zealand, or you can train online. Become a hypnotherapist. Be the best hypnotherapist with the best hypnotherapy school. Your tutors, Caroline and Daryl, are fucking awesome. And also, P.S. amazing. Come and train with us. And back to the podcast.
Thanks for our sponsor. Here's the thing. Even if you don't want to become a hypnotherapist and you just want to learn more about the subconscious mind and how people work and how to not only reprogram your mind, but help other people overcome their issues, even if it's just your children or your friends or your family. All right, here we go. You ready, Daryl?
Do I need my brown trousers?
No.
Okay, then I'm ready.
Okay. Hello, Caroline and Daryl. Where the fuck do I start? 10 months ago, I traveled halfway around the world and met my now very recent ex-partner. Our meeting was beautiful, and I felt a coming homeness of freedom and peace that I had never before experienced in a romantic relationship. It was like meeting my... Sorry. Yeah, there is something to that when someone fucks you just right. It feels like coming home. Or just coming really hard. Sorry. Okay, I digress. It was Daryl's fault. I blame it on him. It was like meeting myself in male form, truly bizarre, like looking in a mirror. The softness and grace of his energy mirrored my own. His life path was so similar, I bet, in a totally different culture, and we had similar and complementary interests and so on.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Now, she's put this in quotes, saying, you can read this or not. I'm going to read it. See what you guys think, because it gets a bit woo-woo. At this time, I was also undergoing a spiritual awakening. Our meeting intensified this, and I began to access the Akashic records where I could see our souls meeting across multiple lifetimes, most recently around 500 years ago during the Spanish invasion of the Mayan lands, where we were last separated. We had a contract to meet in this incarnation, and here we were again. I got asked many times by friends and family why I was venturing from New Zealand to Guatemala, of all places in the world. I had absolutely no fucking idea of why I needed to go there. It just repeatedly appeared in my consciousness, and I had the most overwhelming pull to go, and ASAP. This was in January, February last year. By the start of April, I had moved to Guatemala, and a month later, I had connected with my partner. From our first meeting, we were almost inseparable, spending most days of the next 5 months together. We were peas in a pod. Mostly our lives flowed so fluidly through the mundane of cooking and organizing our environments, working together, living, traveling, filled with resonant laughter and endless conversation. We seemed to complement each other so beautifully and naturally. After 3 months of being together, I fell pregnant. Now again, in quotes, because this is the spiritual woo-woo. She's put this... I actually felt the soul of the child entering my energy field, and I knew I was pregnant from the moment of conception.
Do you know what? I love the woo-woo. So to me, that's just, it's just real. So it's weird to some people, but yes, I completely follow what she's saying. And as much as we have soul contracts and maybe agree to meet people in another life, doesn't mean that it's going to be for our positive benefit. But the interesting thing is this week, I had my hypnotherapy with my hypnotherapist, right? So I had my supervision, hypnotherapy, and I was hypnotized to the moment of conception, regressed. And when my spirit entered the body, and I was like, oh my God, I could feel it. I could just feel the love of my parents. I could feel it all, like it was so vivid and real. And it was in that moment that I was given my gifts. And so it's very interesting that it's at this moment that we're reading this letter, because when she's saying that she feels that, I'm thinking, I know exactly what that feels like, because I was there like yesterday in my hypnosis. So yeah, woo-woo maybe, but yeah, I believe that's a real thing. I completely believe you.
Yeah. Now, prior to becoming pregnant, my ego mind had decided this would be at least 5 years away when I was 30. Had a booming, successful career and had extensively traveled and partied and blah, blah, blah. You know how it is. I'd spent most of my 20s. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
I had spent most of my 20s in relationships and wasn't even looking for a partner. But here I thought I had found my soulmate. Here's the thing. Your soulmate, I don't think you're meant to spend your life with. Your soulmate fucks you up, basically. Your soulmate cracks you open so you can heal your wounds or your karmic, whatever. I don't think you're meant to be with your true soulmate, right? I love Elizabeth Gilbert talks about that in her book, Eat, Pray, Love. She's like, no way, way too painful to actually be with your true soulmate. They're there to teach you your biggest spiritual gifts or lessons. It felt so natural and aligned that this was the time I was becoming a mother. My partner felt the same. He is 10 years older than me, and he said he was so excited to become a father and create a life together. We applied for a visa for him to come to New Zealand and spent the next 2 months in Guatemala together through the early stages of my pregnancy, before innocently assuming his visa would be accepted and he would be in New Zealand by the next year. I know it all sounds romantic and lovely, but there was much deeper shadows present, at which time I did not see, except perhaps in 2 glimpses, which came after I was pregnant.
I interject there because I think here's the first mistake, and I don't know if you've made mistakes or not. Maybe everything's happening perfectly, but when you say it seems romantic and lovely, that isn't how it looks to me. And it's not because it perhaps isn't, and maybe I'm just very cynical, actually. Based on the conversation I had with someone this morning who was going on a second date, and I was like grilling them so hard, I must have sucked all the joy out of their ability to have a fun date with this person. But anyway, I look at this and I think it's lovely, but it also sounds like you're on a fun fair ride. Like it's very quick, it's very fast, it's full of a lot of emotions, moving overseas. And if we define romance by an amusement ride, then it's very romantic. Whereas if we define romance as a soft, gentle thing that is lasting, secure, and beautiful, then it doesn't fit that definition yet. Not that it probably didn't in a lot of those moments that you had together, but also just to put it out there that from the beginning, if I was your friend, I will be grilling you, and you probably would have rejected me at that moment because people don't want to hear it. They don't want their bubble burst in those moments. You sound quite onto it though, so I'm keen to hear what happens next.
Yeah, well, it's a sign of an avoidant personality. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Whoop, whoop. Sign of avoidant personality and avoidant attachment style and maybe some narcissistic traits, right? Because they're the best at mirroring you and making you feel like everything is so amazing, and they just are this perfect mirror. When you have someone that's such a perfect mirror, in my experience, yeah, half of it's bullshit. Right?
Yeah, it's like they're showing you what you want to see because they're good at building rapport through making it seem, and it could be genuine, we don't know, but also when someone's so perfectly the male version of you, again, I'm immediately skeptical for that reason.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Yeah, so much deeper shadows present, at which time I did not see, except in 2 glimpses, which came after I was pregnant. My partner had opened up to me about his childhood of abuse, emotional and sexual, as well as growing up with a separated but highly dysfunctional parenting dynamic. I felt for the inner child in him that I could see was still coping with these wounds 30 years later. The first warning was that when he had left his phone open with Bumble, a dating app, downloaded. I said, "What's this?" He lied about it. I knew what it was and demanded he show me his messages, where he had messaged 2 other women saying they were gorgeous and was flirting. I was fucking pissed. Yeah, that's not a glimpse. That's a window.
Can't see my face right now, but what am I doing?
Yeah, that terrible grimace of, oh no.
Oh no, this is bad. What if people don't know what Bumble is that are listening? It's like Tinder, but it's a dating app. Swipe left or right, but women are in control of if they speak to you or not.
Yeah, they send the message first, right? We talked openly, he was remorseful, and I believed we got to the root of it, which he was shameful about, but felt he had compulsive sexual behavior due to his past and didn't know what to do about it. This was pretty hard to hear, but I did my best to create a safe space where he could talk about it. It sounds like you're an incredibly empathetic, very emotionally aware, very evolved person. So you're giving him this amazing benefit of the doubt and support, right? You're not jaded old bitches like us so far. But one day...
On the scale of things, if that was as far as things had progressed, it's not that it's not really bad, but that's a survivable offense in a whole lifetime. If he was to be yours for the rest of your life, you're to be together. Yeah, it's hard for you to take. He's got some problems, acknowledges them, goes and gets some therapy, works them out, rebuild trust. That could be gotten over. But yeah, you're a lot less cynical than us, yes.
Yeah, and supportive, which I was like that in my 20s too.
Me too.
Yeah.
Exact same. Oh, I've got a sex addiction, Daryl. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's not my fault. And yeah. So,
yeah. We empathize, honey. We have been there and we understand. I said my number one priority in our relationship was honesty. Especially now, I needed to feel extra safe and secure as I'm growing our child together. That this can't be healed if he keeps it in the shadows. I did not believe I would heal him, but wanted to be a support and a space where he honestly could express the side of himself while we found him external help to move through it, and create safe boundaries for myself to not be romantically involved if necessary. I am highly sensitive. Yeah, but it is beautiful, but I don't think that's possible, to be totally honest. I don't know if you can be that safe space and listen to him go through this when you're pregnant with his child. You know what I mean? It's too painful.
but listen to the love there. That's what's lovely.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should be a therapist, darling. You would be incredible. That's what I learned is instead of supporting all the douchebags I would date, I learned to support people who needed my help and wanted to pay me for it rather than doing it for free. Okay. I am highly sensitive and believe sexual energy is very powerful, and this was not the sexual energy I wanted running through my own system, although I did not say this to him. I had no idea how deeply these patterns were running in his life. The next time was 3 weeks later when he left a tab open on his Instagram on his computer when I was editing a website on his laptop. Curiosity got the better of me, and I looked into his messages. I saw that he had been inappropriately messaging girls, explicitly commenting on their bodies. Again, I was horrified and heartbroken. Yeah, we talked about it. I firmly stated it was not okay behavior that was going on behind my back. He was lost, disappointed, and shameful. I did in no way expect him to heal years of coping mechanisms and wounds, but what I did expect was honesty, as he had promised to give me. But see, this is compulsion. This is compulsive behavior.
I wonder if there are some cultural aspects as well. Because, in some countries, we just wouldn't comment on, say, in front of your wife, you wouldn't comment on another woman. And I'm not saying that that's not normal for most cultures, but there will be some where it's just acceptable to just point out beauty where you see it. Hey, you're gorgeous. And even in our culture, there are couples that are happy to do that. So again, as a new couple, part of that could be boundary setting. It does sound like there's more than that. I'm not trying to give them an out there, but I'm saying it might not all be so hideous. But then why do you have to reach out on Instagram? That is the...
And sending messages, it's not a comment on Instagram on the post saying beautiful, something like that. It's sending messages explicitly commenting. So a little bit different. I stated that for myself, I needed to be able to manage the energy we shared, so I've not again become disillusioned and hurt. I said I needed honesty so I could create healthy boundaries for myself, even if that meant we formed a different structure for our relationship while he moved through these patterns, did the inner work, and got the help he needed. Sounds to me like she's way more involved than him.
Yeah, I think that you should be here answering this because you're more involved than me for sure. That's very, very wise. That's a lot of wisdom in that statement.
Yes, I am the divine mother that is carrying his child to earth. I need respect and honesty. He understood, and he said he would do whatever it takes to heal and change, that he could feel these patterns were ruining his life and had been for a while, and that his soul wanted nothing more than to be a healthy partner for me and a father to his child. A few weeks later, before leaving Guatemala, I opened the space for a discussion about the monogamy of our relationship before I was to depart back to New Zealand. Essentially, I said it was in my best interest to continue a monogamous relationship, especially at this time when I am pregnant with haywire hormones and a primal need for safety. But that again, clarity and honesty were more important to me. And that if he felt he could not maintain a monogamous relationship while I was away, he should say so and we could figure something out. So mature.
Yeah, it's a difficult conversation to have for a long distance relationship, but it's one that ensures that if there's needs that need to be met, that can happen without breaking trust.
But she gave him an out as well. Like, we can work through this. Just be honest with me.
Mm-hmm. Well done.
Okay. Yeah. In my mind, I figured that if he couldn't stay faithful, I could detach from being as strongly emotionally connected to him and manage my expectations about sharing a healthy, normal partnership for potentially a long time. If he cannot be faithful during pregnancy when I need it, he was clearly not the masculine counterpart to be in a long-term relationship with. Our relationship would need to transform into a friendship, partnership, parenthood, where we collaborated on raising a child together, but we're not romantically involved. Are you sure you're in your 20s? This sounds like this sounds like someone in their 40s or 50s. This is not a girl in her 20s, but yeah, you're an old soul, honey. That is for sure.
Lots of wisdom right there.
Yeah.
You got that from some of your records you've been visiting.
Yeah. I trusted that because I had so openly and clearly stated my needs and boundaries, as well as giving him the space to be honest about if he wanted an open relationship, that he would be honest with me. He stated again that he loved me deeply and wished to create a life and be the best partner possible, and I should just relax my anxieties. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
No, but like if somebody said that to me, I would be like, what the fuck? I dare you. No, shut up.
Yeah. So we left it at that, and I departed to New Zealand while we waited for his visa. For the next couple of months, we talked every day and were, so it seemed, doing well at maintaining a long-distance connection. A couple times I had the intuition anxiety surface about his patterns, so openly brought this up with him. He assured me he was managing his sexual desires in other ways and not to worry. Always trust. And now we have, in big caps, fucking liar. But yeah, always trust that feeling. I swear, every time I've had that feeling, it has been right. And maybe they're not doing something, but something behind the scenes is going on. It's like you always know. Something in you tells you.
Yeah, whenever I've had that feeling, and sometimes there's been accusations that I've thrown, or I thought there's something happening. Sometimes there has been, and the majority of the time it's been correct. But there's other times when I couldn't verify anything and I didn't know. Could have been personal anxiety from history, but what there was always something else going on, something I didn't know. And the whole thing is secrets. If there are secrets, it's damaging. Whether the secret is that he's been secretly gambling behind your back and he can't tell you, or sleeping with somebody, or changed how he feel about you, whatever it is, you get anxiety because your unconscious mind or your spirit is picking up the signals that he's giving off.
Yeah. Okay, so now the shit really hits the fan. I got a message from my...
Sorry. Okay.
That's more of a diet. Well, yeah.
I'm going to buckle in.
Yeah. I got a message from my friend who's still in Guatemala that her friend had been on a Tinder date with my partner. He had said that we were in an open relationship, but she had thought that was not the case as she knew I was pregnant, so she thought to tell me. What the fuck? I am furious. All caps. Long story short, the friend sends me screenshots of their Tinder convo, and I can see he was talking to her while he was still with me before I left Guatemala, arranging to meet. So he was messaging her while she was still in Guatemala before she had even left.
I'm literally speechless.
Yeah.
I am in shock. Oh, dear. What do you know?
Honey, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I am devastated and beside myself. I am carrying our child, thinking about what kind of fuck does this. But it gets worse. I calm down, and then I call to confront him. At first, he denies it. He appears to be fucking delusional, taking absolutely no ownership for his actions. It's so hard to deal with this process when we're separated by thousands of kilometers and talking over a phone. Eventually, he admits to what he's done, and I demand to know the story of whoever else he's seen. Of course, I assume there's been more women. Yeah. Good assumption, hon. Then it all comes out because I make him speak and say, if he doesn't tell me now, I will ask the universe to surface his action in other ways. Good on you. I will curse you. Hell hath no fury until you do right by me. Yes. When I left Guatemala, he was staying with an old friend for the week who he told me had a lesbian partner. Liar. He had slept with her. He also tells me about another girl he slept with before I was pregnant and when we were traveling together. I now know this is when he was out getting medicine for me when I was sick, which took way too long. How fucked up is that?
Oh, so
That's
she's
her
saying he
saying
was
that.
out to get medicine, and
Yeah.
then
Fuck
while
somebody.
I'll just like fall
He
over
had it.
into someone's vagina.
Yeah, he had an accident where he slipped into someone's vagina.
How the fucking sorry, like what an
Yeah.
absolute cunt.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I know
there's
that
more.
my
Yeah, go
partner
on.
was sick one time, and I was out back when I started secret smoking, and I would have a secret smoke, buy a packet, smoke one, get rid of the whole rest of the packet into the bin, have a shower, wash my hands, and it just took me really long to go and get your stuff. But this is another level of secrecy.
Yeah, that's a cigarette, not another dick, right?
Not a penis, right?
No.
Or a badge. Which would
Or
be unlikely,
badge.
but
Yeah, it'd be unlikely for you. But then there was another girl who he had initially told me he had met at a restaurant and they shared similar interests and caught up a couple of times. He now tells me they slept together too. And there was another girl he spoke of that he made out with. I was devastated, heartbroken, furious, confused, everything you can imagine. How could his words so drastically be out of alignment with his actions, especially considering we'd been talking every single day? He was clearly doing a lot of lying. He appeared a weird mix of guilty, angry, victimized, self-righteous, but apologetic. He was barely acknowledging the incredible pain this process was causing me. Then
it's all
his
from his
visa
point
was...
of view. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm sorry, I'm this, I'm instead of your heart. Oh my God, what have I done to you? He's so self-involved.
His visa was declined. This was a blessing in disguise by the visa fairies keeping us apart. God. Now in hindsight, don't you love hindsight? Ha ha ha. This should have obviously been the end of all hope of having a relationship together. But I was pregnant with our child and so deeply wanted her to grow up with both parents. I'd wished for a wholesome, stable upbringing with both parents as amazing support, and I wished her the same. Additionally, I didn't know how I was going to do it all alone. The thought of giving birth without him was terrifying despite what he had done. The thoughts of lonely nights, awake feeding the baby, broke my heart and all expectations that I initially had when we decided to commit to raising this child. I told him I could not do this, not carry on with him treating me like this. I thought, how did I get there? Honey, a lot of us have gotten there. It's how you learn. And it teaches you massive life lessons. And if you're meant to be helping other people, which I would put money on the fact that you are, with how wise and evolved you seem to be, this is a lesson you're meant to learn. If everything happened beautifully for you and, it sounds like you had a great childhood, you need some fucking trauma to help other people through their shit. So it's your MBA.
You're probably trusting people because trust was a part of your life. You had a warm, safe environment. People trusted each other. People kept their word. So this kind of behavior is probably quite foreign to you. And so why wouldn't you expect when he says something that he means it? And, unfortunately, there's a whole other class of people who are just liars, who just are cheaters and who have no interest in serving anybody but themselves. I'm not saying that was his sole interest. Possibly there was real love for you. Possibly there was other stuff going on. But clearly he's his primary focus.
Yeah. He's damaged. He's damaged goods. I thought, how did I get there? I had been blessed with no shortage of attractive, stable, intelligent men who were interested in me and would have happily created a life with me. I am intelligent, resilient, motivated, creative, and independent. I knew I didn't deserve this, but I also knew my soul and subconscious had manifested this exact experience for a reason. For the last 2 months or so since this happened, I somehow tricked myself into believing his vows to change once and for all. I wasn't ready to let go because of my perception that I should try and make this work for the sake of our child, at least one more time until we were together. Now I know what's best for the child will be to have healthy, balanced humans embodying strong feminine and masculine energy, that this did not need to be attached to him, but my soul wasn't ready to see this yet. The thought of him losing me as well as his baby girl was supposedly the breaking point for him, and he promised to change. In hindsight, I have absolutely no idea how I decided to give it one last chance, but I did, thinking I was acting in the best interest of my family, even though I see clearly now that being in an unhealthy relationship would never be in our best interest at all. Or maybe there was something physiological about having his DNA literally growing inside of me that inspired me to somehow give him another chance. Totally. I think that is a real thing too. It's like, even though logically you're like, girl, you need to fucking run, your DNA and just your like that primitive reptilian brain's like, you are pregnant to this man. You need to make it work because, yeah, historically, you're going to die if that happened to you.
And as much as it's hard, when you look back in 10 years, no matter what happens between now and then, I can be sure that you will not regret this period. Like, no matter how hard it is for you right now, no matter how hard it's been, and no matter how hard it's going to get. And I don't think it's going to be as hard as you think. I think it's just going to work out for you. Either way, you're going to look back and you're going to go, do you know what? It was all worth it. Now I see why I met him. Now I see I got to conceive this amazing, beautiful child, to give birth to this amazing human being. And it didn't have the family that I had, that I wanted for her. But what she does have is a fucking amazing mom, a fucking amazing family, and she will be formed with your values primarily. Even if the dad's around, she will have your values primarily, your intelligence, your wisdom. And there's, for some reason, I'm telling you, for some reason, this baby needed his DNA, needed his genes. And I bet she's going to be stunning, lovely, and just perfect. And you're going to be so happy when you look back. But for now, doesn't change how hard it is. And your drive to, as you say, be with this person, because evolutionary, we don't survive alone. We needed our partners.
So the story goes on. A couple nights ago, I had the intuition. Yeah.
Oh no.
So she had given him another chance at this point. A couple nights ago, I had the intuition to bring up the patterns again. He had had a joint and a couple of beers and was not being thoughtful and careful with his words. So I've done that trick. Man's a bit pissed and it's like, let's have a little talk. Oh, and you just trip them up and fucking get all the info out of them before they know it hits them. I don't remember what he said, but something could have implied he had been with another woman. I pressed harder and he told me he had. How many more? I don't know, but at least one more that I didn't know about. As crazy as it sounds, for whatever reason, I needed this one last straw in order to clearly say, fuck you, see you later. This was even easier to do thanks to the fact that he did not apologize, instead berating the expectations of women in society and not taking any ownership or responsibility for his actions. This tipped me over the edge for a final time. He was delusional, saying that if our daughter would grow up without her father, it was my ego, gaslighting much, that was preventing this from happening. I obviously stated that this was not the case, that this reality he had created was completely a result of his own actions. Fucking damn right it is. The pain of this experience surfaced many primal fears of the feminine psyche. Having a careless partner, man, resource partner thousands of years ago would have probably seen the death for the bubba or a very hard life. I could not let this experience break me. I was and still am determined to create the best fucking life possible for me and my soon-to-be daughter. So I made space to feel all this deeply as possible, to let the feeling take over so my higher consciousness could see it, cleanse it, and release it. I went through nights of karmic cleansing in a weird concoction of deep grief, laughter, ecstasy, and pain. I felt my vibration and clarity and connection to higher dimensions increase exponentially.
May I just interject that that's extremely brave to even consider going down that path. Like, well done. That's very brave.
Yeah. And it's better to get it out now.
And it's going to happen to so many people. But I got a friend who had a few miscarriages, and one thing that was said to her was, don't worry if you're stressed about getting pregnant. People get pregnant in war zones. People have babies in war zones. Yes, it's something to be aware of, but don't base your whole perception of the mental health of your baby or your physical ability to have a baby on stress, but rather just take note of it and, like you say, go and do some craniosacral, maybe some flower essences, and be aware that when your baby's born,
and some hypnotherapy.
Get some.
But it's not really, it's more an energetic thing with the baby. Like, you obviously can't do hypnotherapy on the baby, but she sounds so freaking onto it. I'm sure she's already doing all that work.
Well, quite possibly, but where I was going to go was this. Your baby's amygdala and the part of the brain that starts to sense fear, that's there before 12 weeks. That's forming. And so your baby's nervous system and its ability to sense danger will be elevated if there's been stress during pregnancy. That's fine. But when your baby's born, you co-regulate nervous systems. And this is the whole basis of the way I work with children. I always work with the parent first, because if the parent is calm, it doesn't matter what the child presents with. Separation anxiety, fussiness with eating, bullying behavior, whatever it is, if the parent is able to become calm in all moments with their child, the child's behavior just changes.
Okay. So although I believe transformation is possible, I release all expectations of him healing, as I must do so for my sanity, and completely let go of this relationship. He has caused me too much pain for me to have hope in repairing trust needed for our relationship. Now he again says his soul wants nothing more than to settle down and create a family together with me and only me, that he is pained by what feels like an entity ruining his life. Hey, it could be. Directing his sexual energy and keeping it hidden in the shadows in compulsive addiction that he hates and is shameful for. I do believe he wants to heal, but it is ruining the best thing that has ever happened to him. But he doesn't know how to or have the resources to shift these long-form patterns. I also know I cannot continue to support his healing journey at the expense of my own health. Fucking hallelujah. That is right.
Now, and you learned that very quickly.
Yeah. Now he faces the consequences of his actions, losing his beautiful, supportive, dedicated partner, as well as the chance of being a family with his daughter, who he so desperately wants to be a good father to and a strong presence in her life. For myself, it's important that he does, in fact, have a relationship and connection with his daughter, but this will be facilitated completely on my terms when it best suits us.
Great.
Yeah. Yes, it took a while, but I state now strongly to him we are not in a romantic relationship together, and I am removing him from this privileged position in my life. We are taking much needed space, but still intend on working out a framework in which he can be a part of his daughter's life. This is a commitment we entered together, and even though he is completely an unhealthy partner for me, I still believe he'll be an amazing father to his daughter. After the wild ride of this story, my questions are more practical. As a single mother, at least until I find the divine partner I deserve, which I 100% believe you will, honey, you'll find someone even better who will be an amazing father to your daughter.
You'll be amazing.
At least I shall find the divine partner I deserve. How can we ensure our children grow up in a healthy, balanced environment without a male presence as a partner? Some tips to navigate a relationship with the other parent and still maintain friendships for the benefit of your child. I'm worried that in the future, because of me and her father likely live in different areas of the world, that if we were to cultivate a relationship where we travel to visit and connect with him, this will cause her abandonment and separation wounding when we leave, even if I am in a relationship with another healthy male partner for the rest of the time. Is this true? How can this wounding be avoided? Thank you so deeply for taking the time to read this wild letter and lay witness to this crazy journey.
Well,
oh, honey, big hug from me. And it's going to be okay.
Hurts from me too. And I want to give you a lot of reassurance. Like that's a long story, and there's a lot of wisdom in that story, and there's a lot of pain in that story. And it's interesting the questions that you ask afterwards. And I can imagine why you want reassurance on this, but it's going to be so easy to give you. Like, you know that we'll say it how it is. And if I, for 1 second, thought that it would not be really, really easy for you to provide a stable environment without a wounded child, then, I'm just going to tell you the truth. And the reality is that as long as there's one loving, stable parent, as long as you are supported in some way, now that doesn't have to be by a partner, it could be by friends, parents, siblings, as long as you're supported, as long as baby's supported, it's going to be fine. It's literally something that I've lived with for many years. Was a friend with a father that cheated and came and went. And as long as the children had good role models in their life, which they did, they turned out great. They turned out to be beautiful, loving, caring human beings without therapy, without any excess things, just from having one loving, stable person. Is that always enough? No, we know that people that come from two-parent homes tend to do better in certain metrics, but it sounds like you've got enough wisdom, love, and foresight to be more than two parents. You've got enough of 6 parents, so your kids are going to be fine.
Absolutely. And I think I think you'll just be able to provide that healthy, balanced environment. You just sound so wise and so grounded and so understanding that I think you'll be amazing. That child is lucky to have you as a one child rather than 4 parents that are just normal without that wisdom. I don't think you need a father in your life in order to grow up to be healthy and happy. And there's a lot of people who have sperm donors or lesbian relationships where there isn't a father figure. Is that sometimes children need that, but sometimes grandparents can step in. I think it's, my parents were divorced when I was very young, and I would see my father, but really it was my grandfathers that were the big male influences as well. So I think that there's other ways to provide that male energy. Hopefully your father's around and can help, or there's other ways of finding it. There's other ways friends can provide that. Siblings can provide that. It takes a village. And it sounds to me like if you did stay with him, he probably would have ended up traumatizing you and her way worse. Right now, I wouldn't worry about a relationship with him. I think you need some time to heal, and I would really step back, because although you sound like you had good boundaries, you're obviously a healer, and you've really at some level were trying to heal him.
And I don't want to speak for every man in the world, but if he's not a stand-up guy as a partner, he's probably not going to be a stand-up guy as a dad. Yeah. I just don't believe, I feel like you believe it. I don't believe it. I don't think that he will be that good dad that you expect. I think he'll let you down. I think that he'd be the kind of guy that would cancel his 1 day a week with his kid to go on a date. And I could be wrong there. It doesn't mean that he shouldn't be in the life. It doesn't mean that he wouldn't love the child. But loving a child and actually being there for a child are two different things. He loved you, but he wasn't there for you. And I don't want to say this to put you off. Again, it's just my observation through life so far, in my clinic so far, that people that are shit partners are usually shit parents. Not always. But if you're a good mom, then it's going to be okay. And if you get another partner, I know so many people, I'm sure you do too, Caroline, that grew up with adoptive parents or stepfathers. Yeah. And I grew up with a step-grandfather in my village. I loved him so much. Like indistinguishable from a blood relative. And that's, children don't notice they bond with the people in their home. They bond with the people in their life. They bond with people that show them love. They learn from people that show them love. And so maybe be open that, your child could have a dad and a stepdad. Maybe 5 stepdads. I'm not going to judge you, but no.
She doesn't sound like that type. But he's hurt you so badly, and you've given him so many chances, that I would really just take a step back. And if he really wants to see his child, he will do what he can to make it work. I would not be the one flying back to South America, doing all the work for him. You can check in with them, and here's a photo, but it's going to be a few years before she even realizes about fathers and stuff like that, right? So that, as long as she's got someone around her that loves her and supports her, she's not even going to know for the first few years. And I would just take your time with that. And my gut instinct is you're going to meet someone who is amazing, who is going to be the father that she's meant to have. And that it's not really, you can look at like her meeting him and having a relationship with him when she's older, when she's an adult. But I just wouldn't put pressure on yourself about how to do this now. You're going to know as time goes on, you're going to be able to circumnavigate this, and it's all going to be okay. But the only thing I would worry right now is looking after yourself and your baby. And and just, he can go fuck himself right now for all I care. That's what, I don't think he even
do that.
Well, probably. Well, he should go fuck himself with a big toilet brush. Apparently, ER nurses tell me all the time about men who get toilet brushes stuck up their ass. But I digress. You are so kind and so empathetic, and this guy keeps shitting all over your kind, beautiful, empathetic soul. And there's some anger there, which is good. I think you need that anger and that righteous anger. I think a lot of times when people are highly spiritual, they skip over that really important step. And Daryl, you were the one who said this to me, of like, you need to unforgive people sometimes. and go through this process. So yeah, you've talked about this on the podcast. You need to unforgive them and go back through that process and be fucking pissed off. And there is anger there, which is good, but don't even worry about all that right now. I know how it feels to be really wounded when you're pregnant. Believe me, I do. And I don't want to go into details, but I do understand. And it's fucking horrible. It is horrible. But some of it is literally just your reptilian brain telling you you're going to die because that's our biology. Yeah. And it's not true anymore. It's not reality. It's biology. And go, thank you, reptilian brain, for sharing. But I'm okay. I am safe and protected, and you obviously are. And you are going to find someone much better. And I don't know if he really even deserves to be in your daughter's life. I honestly don't know if he does. He's really going to have to prove himself and jump through a fuckload of hoops in order to do that.
I think it's really nice that you're actively trying to facilitate that. I've known people that have actively tried to facilitate that as well, had the same positive intentions. I'm going to be this loving mother that puts my own feelings aside, that makes sure that the dad and the child has a relationship. At the end of the day, that's good as long as the dad brings something as well. Because if the dad just continues to be a fucktard, fucking off the mom, pissing off the children, upsetting everybody, then in the long run, it isn't better for the child, in my opinion. Not to say that I'm the person that should be making that judgment, like you're the person that should be making that, but rather being aware of what the package is, because it's not dad or no dad. It's not relationship or no relationship. It's like, if he is in your children's life, that's a whole package. And if you accept the good of who he is, you're also accepting the negative. And should we accept any amount of negative from a man, from a father, just so that he's in the kid's life? That's up to you. What level of negative? And there might be none. Like, he might really be different as a father. That could be genuinely true. And I hope that is. And I think with the boundaries that you're clearly good at setting, that you will make sure that that's true, because he will not get a second chance with the child. So he will have to behave.
The other thing to think about is, if you continue to talk to him and be supportive of him, and now you're just friends and you're co-parents, is he really going to fucking learn the karmic lesson that he needs to learn? Does he, like, I think if you're like, that's okay, we're not together anymore, but you are still the father of my daughter and I will support you. And and I'm not saying you're like that, but then he's like, yep, I can do whatever the fuck I want. I think he needs to feel some real fucking pain. And not that you need to be a complete cunt about it. And I know some people don't like that word, but I fucking like that word.
Yes.
But I normally only call men cunts. He's the cunt. But this is a karmic process. I think he needs some divine karmic pain. I don't think he's felt enough. And this is me. You cross me and you fucking know. I think don't make this process easy for him. Don't support him through this process. He created this process. I'd just make sure I would fucking make him sweat and don't have much contact with him. And because you do have to protect yourself. And it's like the easier you make this for him, the more he's not going to fucking learn his lesson.
And it's so hard because still in your brain, separate from missing him as a man, like biologically and evolutionary, there's also the image that you had of having a family. And you're going to need to grieve that. And that's going to be a hard process to grieve. And probably you have been doing that. You know, you mentioned that you went and you felt all that emotion. But that, again, that's a continuous process with multiple layers. There'll be grief when baby's born and he's not there. But even if you hate him, there'll be having that baby alone. There'll be grief going through all the first steps and you're alone again. And you won't be alone, but it's not the image that you had in your mind as a child of growing up, meeting someone, having a baby together and having that support. So be aware of the grief that may keep hitting you, but when it happens, just recognize it for what it is. This is grief. It's okay that I feel it. It's good that I feel this. I should just let this wash through me. I will get past this. And the grief never, ever, ever means in a weak moment that I need to take it back. It never means that I need to reach out to him. I can demand from him, and tell him what to give me, but I don't reach out just because I'm grieving. Again, it's up to you, but my thought is to think, to pace yourself through that future where you may be hit by these waves of grief, and what will that mean for your relationship with him? Because if you decide to maybe make him sweat a bit, it's easy to then change your mind and call on him when you're in need. And if you predict that as a possibility, what could you put in place instead? What other resources could you put in place? Could you do a hypnosis where you imagine going through all these steps and not being alone because of the family or the friends that support you, your spirit guides or your angels that support you, and just really visualizing all of the people that are there, alive and dead, that support you, so that in those moments where you would be prone to feel alone, you no longer feel that way because you're aware that you aren't alone.
And it's better to be alone than with someone who hurts you continually. That is worse than being alone by miles. I have the very strong feeling that this is a karmic lesson that you're meant to learn because you are a healer. And it's part of your journey because you needed some fucking trauma, unfortunately. I don't think you've had enough. So here you go. You got a good one. And you will turn this into such powerful wisdom and the ability to support others. And it's awful when you go through it, but every horrible trauma I've been through, I've ended up helping other people with. I've ended up supporting others. It's made me stronger, more resilient, more wise, less fucking trusting, but still empathetic, still wide open heart and a big fuck off fence. That's the way I like to look at it.
I like that.
But strong boundaries, and your intuition is just going to be able to spot it like that. That's how you learn to spot those types of guys. I'm so sorry it's happened.
And I guess
Well, for now, that's all I'm saying. And not that you can't talk to him at all, but I think it's that, I don't know. I just feel like you need to be a bit harder on him about this. That's my gut feeling, that I think you're being a little bit too supportive. And when he doesn't fucking deserve any goddamn fucking support right now. I don't care if he's traumatized. You know what? We're all fucking traumatized. And I don't go around traumatizing people. So I don't buy it. Sorry.
In that moment where you find out that he's cheating on you and you're a strong person and you weren't expecting it and it was a shock and you're in shock in that moment. So you're not thinking clearly. And in that moment, he's like, this is my wound. This is my wound. I'm broken. And you reach out and you help him. And that's not how it should go. What should have happened there is he should have said, oh, I have wounded you. I allowed my past to affect you. I'm going to change immediately. And my worry is that in that moment and in that relationship that you've built with him, you allow him to continually wound you. And all you're thinking about is his wound or the baby's wound. It's like, stop letting him wound you. And that may mean cutting off contact. That may mean limiting contact. But what it certainly means is you being 100% in control. No, it's impossible. You are not allowed to be emotionally manipulated. You're not allowed to let him play on your heartstrings, play on what's best for the child, because I'm telling you, he does not know. You know. If intuitively you think this level of contact is best for your child, go with it. And if you want to have contact with him, great. I've worked with clients that have come out of these relationships, a lot of them, with really bad men. And what the biggest tip that I can give you is for you to be fully in control of the communication. For some of my clients, it was a case of what they do is they were only allowed to communicate by email. And I had her make a new inbox and all of his emails were routed to that one that she would open once a week on the Friday. So it was to do with the kids' needs. And so it could be checked once a week. And that was the only way he could communicate. Or if he's prone to texting you all the time, especially when he's having emotions or he can't get laid that week. And he's like, oh, I love you and I'm so sorry. Then you need something to protect yourself from that. Not that you would necessarily cave, but you don't need to be exposed to his changing emotions, his changing desire to be close to his child or his regret from being away from you. So if you want to have a healthy relationship with him for your child, then you must be 100% in control of any communication, and anything that deviates from that, block it, stop it, don't let it happen, reinforce the boundaries. And and really make sure you've got a way to physically limit the communication he has. That's my advice. So you can just switch him off if he gets annoying. That might be a bit harsh, but that's my advice.
Yeah, I agree. I just think, just don't worry about him right now. The last question was worried about because he lives in another part of the world and going to visit him and connect with him. That'll cause her abandonment, separation, wounding when we leave.
Maybe not. Depends how old she is.
It depends, but my gut is that you're actually going to find another father figure for her. And if you don't, that's all right. But yeah, that it's not really going to be something you need to navigate or for a while. And that's probably not the best way to answer it. Children aren't that, like, if they don't really know and they're not that interested, right? Or it's a bit weird and awkward, I wouldn't worry so much.
People attach to who's normally there, right? So if he was there all the time and then you went away, of course there'll be abandonment and separation, but your child will not be born bonded to this guy. Your child will not know who this guy is. There will not be the release of chemicals that bonds. There's a spiritual bond, yes, but if you go and visit, and if that happens, which it may not, but if it does, then when you leave, your child will not feel abandoned because this person doesn't normally live with you. Like, they may be called their dad, but it will take a long time before they even understand what that means. Maybe 6, 7, 8 years old before they really start thinking, hey, I've got a dad here, and either A, I don't have one at home, or why do I have a different dad at home and I've got one over there? Children just don't think that way. They don't think in terms of that. And so for abandonment wise, I don't think it's something to worry about at all. Not even at all.
No, it'll be, yeah, I wouldn't worry about that at all right now. It'll be many years before you have to cross it. And if you find someone else to be a father figure for her, I wouldn't even worry about it. And it's something she can cross when she's older. And the thing is, you don't want to be like, oh yes, I met your father and he cheated on me with a whole bunch of women and broke my heart, right? Like, that's not a conversation you ever have with the child. Like, you can tell her that as an adult, but you want to be careful with that. I think at one point you can talk about that, but I think I'd be more like, you know what? I just wanted a daughter so much, and I just met this man who was so beautiful, and I just knew that he would have been the best. Maybe, he was just gonna help me bring you into the world, but really it was about my love for you, and I wanted you so much. And he's not really even a part of the story, right? It's about your love for her and how you just wanted her in this world. And like, I remember my ex-husband told my daughter that she was a mistake, and in his eyes, she was, but not in mine. Like, I fucking wanted so badly to get pregnant, and I so badly wanted a little girl, and like, I wasn't verbalizing that, but I know I did whatever I could to bring that child into the world, because she was like really upset by being told this. And I was like, no, I planned you. I brought you into this world, and you were so wanted. And then she was fine. It totally healed the wound. I'm like, that's men. Don't even worry about that, honey. You were meant to be my baby, and I couldn't wait to have you. And that's the truth.
It only takes one.
It
takes one person
exactly
to love you. Yeah. To always be there. And your child, I'm sure, is going to have so many people that loves her. Many. Not just you, but so many. I know that for sure. I can promise you that. Like, you can look back and listen to this in 10 years and you'll be like, they were right. So many people love this child. This child is so beloved, so safe, so secure. I can't believe I even worried about any abandonment or connection or stress issues. It all worked out fine. And your new partner, when you meet him or her, is going to have an amazing penis. So I just thought I'd throw that in.
Her penis? Okay, don't even start. May the penis gods bless you and your future partner. There you go.
On that note, okay, I gotta go get a haircut, obviously. You can tell by the state of it.
Well, I hope that answers your question. And we're going to start doing a little bit of news. But if you like this, give us a review, share it with your friends, write to us with your questions, wtfstoriesandadvice@gmail.com. And thanks for listening to us ramble fucking on.
You got a few choices. You can pay us lots of money for a one-on-one session, but we're really good.
Oh.
And so you can go to the website and you can check us out, book an appointment. You can train with us because we're amazing, or you can write in and get advice for free. So like, hey, come on, why wouldn't you do that? Tell us your story. We want to help you.
All right, on that note, bye.
Bye. This podcast was brought to you by IHI Hypnotherapy Training.